Yeah, g'day there. So welcome aboard. Today's training is about how to become a firefighter without wasting years of your life, time, money and effort on things that don't work. So what I'm going to cover today is the three top areas where people fail when attempting to become a firefighter. So the first one is aptitude or psychometric cognitive testing for fire services. And what we want to do here is go from having poor results, worrying and failing, to being able to approach these tests with confidence and basically pass. The next subject that I'm going to cover for you today is personality profiling. So I'm going to look at the firefighter profile and how to approach this psych test so that you don't have to fail it like thousands of people do every year. So that's the second subject I'm going to cover. And the third one is the fire service interview. So the shift we want to make here is go from lacking in confidence and failing to nailing it and landing in the top few % of applicants. So that's the journey for today. Cool, so before we jump into it, I just want to get a gauge of where you're at right now. So what has been the hardest part of the process for you? If you haven't applied yet or it's your first time, what tests are you most anxious about or do you think will be most challenging for you going through? So is it the aptitude or cognitive test? Is it the interview, profiling? Might be the PAT or the fitness sort of thing? Before I go into the training modules, I just want to quickly share with you my experience with fire service recruitment. So I still remember the first time I applied, so I know where you're at if you're not experiencing success with becoming a firefighter and how frustrating that can be. So when I applied the first time, I remember thinking to myself, I'm a great candidate, I've been in the army, I've managed a workshop at a young age and I've had some experience in business. I thought they'd be mad not to give me a job and I thought I'd just walk in the door, no problems whatsoever. But here's what happened. I got through the first few stages of the selection process. I think back then it was the aptitude, then the psychometric profile, and it was emotional intelligence or something like that. Then the PAT test, then I got to the interview. Awesome. But when I went into the interview with confidence, after about a minute of being in there, I could tell that it just wasn't going that well for me. I was struggling to answer the questions and frankly, really to just understand what it was they were looking for. And you know that sort of feeling when you suddenly get a bit lightheaded, your sort of head starts warming up because you start to realise that you're losing something that you thought you had in the bag. Well, that was me on the day. So I still remember very well opening the thanks but no thanks letter at my letterbox. I just finished work for the day and pulled up at the front of my house to find it waiting for me in the letterbox. I remember how bad that felt, as if my world was crashing down around me. I felt like I was almost about to faint, to be honest. And it's still one of the most disappointing feelings I've had to date. I think it would be even more disappointing nowadays if it had to come in an email like it usually does. So, yeah, at least I had to send me a letter. So, I suppose once I got over the disappointment after a while, I still wanted the career. So I thought to myself, I should learn how to smash this recruitment process, but how am I going to do it? So over the sort of next 12 months while I was waiting to apply again, I started researching similar jobs with similar processes and applying to those jobs just to get experience. And it turned out that I learned really quickly and started getting offered jobs I was applying to. I even ended up doing nearly a year with the prison service as a really young age sort of thing. So yeah, I got good at it, I suppose. And the great thing for me was that 12 months of hardcore research, practice and real life experience paid off and I was offered a job as a firefighter. And that's great for me, but we're not here to talk about me all day. But going through this process really got me thinking. See, at the time I thought I was a pretty good guy with some great skills, attributes, experience and a really good personality. So if I struggled so much with this process, there must be heaps and heaps of other great people missing out just because they don't know about the simple processes and where or how to improve themselves enough to get over the line and get a job offer. So you are my reason for sharing that story, this training, and any help that I can. Because if I can save you from having that same feeling I had opening the rejection letter of thanks but no thanks, I'll be really happy. And becoming a firefighter can honestly change your life dramatically in so many different ways that you probably haven't even thought of yet. Aptitude test, known as aptitude, psychometric and cognitive testing. So all fire services around Australia will have some form of cognitive or aptitude test, and it's the #1 killer of applicants. So on the day you test, you're sitting in the exam room with tens or hundreds of other people depending on where you're applying. Your heart rate's up, you've got sweaty palms and you're just a bit nervous. Or you're waiting to take the online test with a similar feeling. You're wondering what questions will come up, if you'll be able to answer them and if you'll have enough time to finish the test. The biggest thing is you're wondering if you'll be one of the few applicants that comes out on top and progresses, or if you'll be one of the crowd that doesn't meet the benchmark or score high enough to progress through to the next thing. So you get in there and you start to get nervous, you start to feel the stress, and you get that sort of sick feeling in your stomach, or just up from there. You open the test and you start getting caught out on stupid questions because you didn't know the question types, or you've been practicing the wrong stuff, or not practicing at all. As you get deeper into the test, you start to feel horrible, and you start sort of spiraling, out of control, and you ultimately end up with a poor score, or you fail the test altogether. You leave the test feeling really bad and have thoughts running through your head that maybe you'll never get there. It's a really terrible spot to be in, and that's just one option. Or you can walk in calm and confident, you feel prepared and you know your stuff. You get into the test and you start nailing the early answers easily and gathering momentum and confidence. You finish the test with time to spare and confidence that you've smashed it, so you can progress to the next level and ultimately become a firefighter. So they're your sort of two approaches that you might feel. So aptitude test, what is it and why is it used? So fire services use aptitude testing as a culling tool first and foremost, as well as a profiling tool in some cases, depending on the service that you're applying to. So it's an effective way for them to measure an applicant's demonstrated reasoning abilities and their potential success in the role that they're looking to employ a person in. So that's why they use it. But the problem is a lot of the time applicants have been away from this type of testing for years, which diminishes these abilities, and you only get one chance a year if you're lucky. So yeah, that's the problem. I'm just going to run through the top 3 things. So what not to do, unless you're happy to stay in the 95% of applicants that don't get a job. So the first thing is, don't just wing it. Don't just wing it unless you were great at school and you've only just finished a couple of years ago. And even then, is it worth the risk? Like, you might be great at school or great at testing and stuff like that, but each service is pretty specific, so don't just wing it. Number 2, don't just practice on any old questions. This is what the other 95% of applicants do. They just get something free off the internet, or find questions, get a book from somewhere and practice. That's what they're doing, so don't just practice on any old questions. And number 3, don't practice without a framework for quick improvement or proper guidance, unless you want to waste a heap of time for really little results. So they're your top 3 things to avoid and look out for. So don't just wing it, don't just practice any old questions, and don't practice without a framework for quick improvement and proper guidance. Now, I'll get into the good stuff on how to win and make sure you get the best score that you possibly can. So the top 5. First one is, know the questions that you'll be faced with for the service that you're applying to, or if you can get a bit of a peek at the question types that they've been doing, that's even better. So know the questions that you're going to be faced with. Number 2, ensure that you've got a test taking strategy so that on the day you know exactly how you're going to approach the test and smash it. So that's number 2. Number 3, know the environment so you can be efficient. So know the environment that the test is going to be taken in. So whether that's a test room, or it's computer based, or it's in your own home office. So know the environment that it's going to be in so that you can be efficient, because being in an unfamiliar environment adds unwanted stress, and it's just going to affect your score. It's just that simple. So number 3, get familiar with the environment that the test is going to be in and make sure that you're comfortable in that environment. Number 4, make sure that you've not only figured out what questions you're going to face, it's good to know them, but make sure that you've figured out you're going to be able to answer the questions with ease, so that you've got a framework for the question types and that you know that you're going to be able to answer the questions with ease. This will increase your confidence and enjoyment on the day, because knowing that you've already won can be very enjoyable. I know tests aren't enjoyable, but when you get to a point where you sort of know that you can smash it, it is a bit nicer. So number 5, identify your weaknesses early and make them into strengths before an attempt that sees you sitting on the sidelines for a year or more. So just going to recap the 3 things you must not do. So don't just wing it, don't just practice any old questions, and don't practice without a framework or a strategy for quick improvement. The top 5 things that you want to do to make sure that you smash it. So know the questions that you'll be faced with, the specific types of questions. Ensure that you've got a test taking strategy, so on the day you know how you're going to approach the test. Know the environment the test is going to be in, and make sure that you can answer the questions. So it's good to know them, but make sure that you've got your own way of answering them nice and quickly and confidently. Number 5, identify your weaknesses and make them strengths before an attempt that sees you on the sideline. So here's an example of what happens when you get this right. So here's a guy named Trent from New South Wales, rang me up about a year and a half or more ago it's been now. He'd been trying to get a job with Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and he was ready to give up when he came across my website. So we had a bit of a chat about his situation. He told me that he'd applied 5 times, or 5 years that he'd been trying, and that he just couldn't get past the testing phase of the aptitude component for New South Wales. So he asked me if there's some way that I could help him, and I thought absolutely that I could help him. So I got him to go through the framework I just spoke about. We worked with heaps of specific questions, worked with him on a test-taking strategy and a system for rapid improvement. And I remember getting a call from him while I was doing some work one day. He was nearly jumping through the phone. He'd passed the test, but not only had he passed it, he'd smashed it to pieces, and he'd got himself into the band that he needed to be in to progress through and get offered a position with Fire and Rescue New South Wales. So that is a pretty good achievement. Here's a couple of pictures of Trent on his march out day, something that he was about to give up on just a few months earlier. Looking pretty happy with himself. And the reason I use this particular example is because it's a person that could have saved 5 years of anguish in the process, as well as someone that was ready to forget about the whole thing just because they didn't have a system to get the improvements needed. So that's why I like to share this example. Right, so you've heard the theory, I've told you about Trent, and you've learned about aptitude testing and what not to do. So let's just have a quick check-in and talk about you for a minute. Which one of these mistakes have you been making, and how's it held you back? Is it not practicing the right questions, not having a strategy, not being able to improve rapidly on your weak spots? How's it held you back? If it's your first application, which one of these do you think would help you most? Alright, so I suppose you can do nothing, wing it, keep trying, hoping and guessing, or you can learn to master the aptitude test with a simple plan to get you there fast, like Trent. So which way are you going to do it? Alright, so when you get a simple system and a plan sorted out to smash the aptitude test, that's how you become a professional firefighter without wasting years of your life, time, money and effort on things that don't work. So that's what we're here to learn about today, and that's one of the ways that you do it. So we'll get into the next component, personality profiling. I saw a few comments about this one, so it'll be good. So what is it and why is it used? It's usually a long list of questions designed to give the employer or the fire service an idea of your preferences, like if you're emotional stability, if you're safety focused, if you're a leader, if you're more of a follower, if you're a big picture or a detail focused person, if you're a follow the rules and processes sort of person, or if you look for a new ways type person. So it's to look at those preferences that you've got. It's used to point out undesirable traits as well as desirable traits that may not be seen in other forms of testing. It also helps them build a profile and gather evidence on your potential success in the role of a firefighter. So this test has bands which applicants must fall within to move to the next round. If you're outside of the profile bands, in most cases, you're out. This is a massive culling tool used by the fire service in Australia, and it can be very distressing as there isn't usually any chance to get any feedback. So with this test, you're sitting there answering heaps and heaps of what might seem weird questions, wondering why they're asking all of these questions. A lot of the questions seem to sort of be similar and almost repeat themselves, and you're just really wondering what or how they want you to answer the questions. So some of the questions you don't really identify with either way, as they seem subjective and you need more information to answer them properly. So an example of that might be, do you like fire? But it's a yes or no, or an agree, strongly agree, disagree, indifferent type question. You start to think, am I doing it right? You're just hoping and praying as well as getting frustrated as there's so many questions and it feels like a marathon with no real clear path. So if you don't know what you're doing here, you answer the questions the best that you can, but you don't understand what they're trying to get at. You're getting frustrated as the questions don't seem clear, they repeat themselves, and you don't know why. You're not sure if you're putting across the person they want, even though you know you'd be awesome in the job, and you might have even had friends tell you that as well, that are in the job. You think there might be something behind that question, but you're just not sure. You sort of worry that you might fail and not get a chance for feedback. But if you get it right, you can front up to the test with great confidence, get through the questions knowing that you're building the right profile, the profile that they're looking for, and you feel as though you've got almost a bit of an unfair advantage over the other candidates, so that you can progress, pass this test, and never have to worry about it ever again and become a firefighter. So that's what we want to do. So let's get into the top 3 things of what not to do with personality profiling and emotional intelligence sort of type tests. So don't underestimate it, first of all. It's often unthought of, although it is such a large influencer on the selection process. A lot of people don't even really consider it. Number 2, don't lose your patience and then just rush the rest of the test, as it can be very long. And this is sort of part of the test in a lot of cases to see if you rush and sort of go off on a tangent. And number 3, don't believe that you cannot improve or change the outcome, as some recruiters like to tell people. So don't underestimate it, don't lose your patience, and don't believe that you can't change or improve the outcome. So now, how to win and what you need to do, the top 3 things. So you need to find out the preferences that are considered detrimental and the preferences that are considered positive towards the firefighter profile, number 1. So find out what's considered positive and what's considered negative, and sort of where on the band that sits. Number 2, get exposure to the type of tests the service that you're applying to is using, so you can avoid accidentally putting yourself out of the race just by being surprised. So get some exposure. And number 3, learn about the origins and history of the profiling tests or psych tests, as these tests are fundamentally the same and have been around for a very long time. So once you learn what's behind these tests, things will become a lot clearer. So I'm just going to recap on that. So don't underestimate it, don't lose your patience, and don't believe you can't change or improve the outcome. And the things you need to do. So find the preferences that are considered detrimental and positive towards the profile, get some exposure to the tests that your service is using, and learn about the origins and histories of these psych type tests. So I'll give you a quick example of a guy that I worked with on this a little while ago now. His name's Kyle. He'd missed out due to profiling. I think it was a talent screener with Air Services. Kyle and I worked through the desired profile to see where he might have been going wrong, as it was a bit of a surprise that he missed it, because he'd progressed all the way through with really good entrance scores, and there was just something missing. It didn't make sense. A bit like one of the guys mentioned before, that they got right through to the end but didn't get an offer, so this could well be why. So we then worked through the specific question types asked by this service, along with the fundamentals of personality profiling or psych. And as you can see from the picture, Kyle has had a bit of a win there. That's him with an Air Services tender in Western Australia. Looking pretty snazzy. That's Kyle there. I just wanted to show you what goes on there. So I've taught you through the process and the top 3 areas to focus on, and the top 3 areas to sort of avoid and make sure you don't do. I've shown you Kyle. I just want to quickly hear from you again. What has been most helpful so far from everything that we've covered up to this point, or what's sort of been a bit of a light bulb that you may not have thought of so far? So either something that's helpful or something that you didn't consider. So once again, you can keep trying, hope, guess and wing it, show up and miss out the first time because of this. Or the other option is to learn the profiling system and how to pass the test the first go. So once again, what's it going to be for you? Keep hoping and guessing, or get a simple system, get you there fast? It's a bit of a rhetorical question. So when you get a system that shows you step by step how to build the profile they're looking for and nail the profiling test, this is another thing that goes towards becoming a professional firefighter without wasting years of your life, time, money and effort on stuff that doesn't work. Okay, so we're going to pop into the 3rd subject for the training. I'm just going to grab a quick drink. So the fire service interview, what it is and why I choose. This is my favourite subject, because it's what kept me back the first time. So it's going to be a behavioural based interview. Even if they say it's not, they can be made up of behavioural questions, situational and opinion questions, but it will still be focused on the behavioural style. They're used to give you a chance to show examples of how you've behaved in the past in certain situations and circumstances. The idea is that this is a good indication of how you might behave in the future. So along with most interviews, it also gives them an opportunity to get to know you briefly, as well as giving you an opportunity to let them know about all of your great skills, experience and attributes that will go towards making you a great candidate and firefighter. In most cases, though, you're going to have to end up in the top 5 to 10% at this stage to progress. So it is very competitive. So on the day, you'll be sitting in the waiting area sweating and anxious, waiting to be called for your interview. I remember this vividly my time around, sitting there sweating when it's cold. You're wondering if it's going to go well, what questions they're going to ask you, if you're going to have the goods, or if you're going to stumble, go blank and make a mess of the whole thing. It's pretty stressful, I reckon. If you don't know what you're doing here, or even worse, you think you know what you're doing but you're wrong, you'll fumble and shake because you're nervous, you don't have a good answer for the questions and you just go blank. You're unable to put your real personality across and show them who you really are. They keep prompting you on questions but you have nothing left to say, and you walk out wondering what they were trying to get at. You walk out of the interview feeling bad and exhausted. And in your head, you're waiting, up in your head there, you're sort of waiting for the good news that you know inside's most probably going to be bad news that you failed. But if you get it right, you're walking calm and confident, and this comes across to the interview panel or the interview person in a really positive way. Your preparedness will ensure you know the question types and exactly what to expect. You have the ability to get the best version of you across to the interviewer or the interview panel and show them your personality as well. You start nailing the answers easily and gathering forward momentum, and it's actually enjoyable. You're confident when you leave that you'll be expecting good news, but you play it down in the meantime while you're waiting. That sort of quiet confidence. So, with this one, I'm just going to show you how to win at fire service interviews. So there's the fundamental stuff like showing up on time, dressed appropriately, etc. But I want to get into the real stuff that will win you the job. This stuff's still important, so don't get me wrong, it's still really important that you show up on time, etc. But we want to cover the stuff that's going to get you into that top few percent. So to get into the top few percent, you need the following. So you need to know the questions that you're going to be asked, or at least know the general types of questions that you'll be faced with. This way it gives you the best opportunity to show them the best of you instead of getting stumped, going blank and then trying to save it and going off on a tangent. Then thinking of an interview winning example in the car on the way home. I'm sure a few of you may have done that one. So the next thing you want to do is learn a structure that allows you to deliver your interview responses so that you don't miss out any important parts of your answer that they might have a tick box or whatever for during the interview. On this, there's many ways of doing this, but you need to keep in mind that you have to be better than hundreds of other people. So you need a way of turning your response into an interesting story and adding the special sauce that the others aren't. So deliver your answers with confidence and identity, as this is where you're really going to win and be head and shoulders above the others. The next thing you need to do is anticipate tricky questions. So most interviews will have, one or two tricky questions that are designed to get you to admit something adverse. If you're aware of this, you can be ahead of the game and turn these sort of tricky questions into welcome opportunities to further leverage your brand and your cause over the other 95% of the applicants that are competing with you. So if you're aware of these before you get in there, you can have something in the barrel ready to go to turn it into a positive instead of a negative, which the other 9 out of 10 people aren't capitalising on. Alright, the next one, this is pretty important. So get feedback of someone that knows. It's fine to practice on friends and family, and I really encourage you to do that just to get the practice. But definitely get feedback from either a professional or someone in the know. And when I say someone in the know, I mean someone that is current. I have people all the time, they'll tell me, station officer such and such told me, X, Y, Z, and it didn't work out for me. So the problem here is that person could have been in the job for 20 years and not had recent experience within recruitment. Just want to bring this up as it's a really common pitfall. You'd be surprised the amount of times I've heard this sort of thing. So it can be great if you've got someone in the know, but just do your homework on your expert that you're getting the feedback off. So just make sure of that. So just to recap, know the questions, or at least the types of questions. Learn a structure that allows you to make sure you've got all of the important parts in there and that you meet any tick boxes or anything that they might have. Anticipate your tricky questions and get some feedback so that you're improving in the right direction. I'm going to show you an example of when you get it right. So here's a mate of mine. He'd been trying to get a job with the fire service in Victoria and got up to the interview stage and missed out. Then he finally came to see me and asked for my help with the interview. I just ran him through the simple framework and process for interview preparation, and then the stuff that I've just covered basically with some extra stuff. And he literally strolled into a job this time around. There could have been much more qualified people with all sorts of experience, but because he'd gone through the process and learned how to deliver himself better than 95% of the other guys, it made it easy for him to do well and get a job. Simple as that. I like sharing this story as this was a guy that I'm friends with that knows what I do, who finally decided to give my way a try, and it just works. The proof is in the results, as you can see. So once again, I've shown you the theory and I've given you a bit of an insight into my personal journey through the process. Just want to hear from you quickly. What sort of a difference would it having an easy to follow step-by-step framework make for you going forward? What sort of a difference would that make? So just want to share this with you. Here's a thought to consider. The interview in almost all cases is the very closest you'll ever be to having a job with the fire service, and it's also the furthest away that you'll be at the same point. So you can, once again, have a go, hope, guess and wing it, or go with naive confidence like I did back in the day. Get advice off people that may or may not know what they're doing, or know what they're talking about even. Or you can learn an interview system, go in confident knowing the questions and how to answer them better than at least 95% of the other applicants, impress the panel, get the best version of you across to them and get the job offer. It's systems like this that help you become a professional firefighter without wasting years of your life. So if you look at the sort of people that I've just shared with you, there's 3 or 4 years instead of 1. Trent, 5 years. Kyle, 2 years. If you add that up, it's 10 or 11 years over 3 people. So had to have these systems in place to start with, you could have saved that years of your life, time, money and effort on things that don't work. So that brings me into the next part of the training. I'm not sure why you showed up here today, but it might be because you've tried time and time again and you keep getting knocked back, or you're sick of seeing other people that aren't as good or as suitable as you being accepted and you just can't get your head around it, you're not sure why that's happening. Or you could just be looking to fix that one sort of missing piece you can't seem to nail and progress. So you might be just looking to fix that weak link in the chain. The other thing is it might be your first time. You just want to make sure that you smash it the first time and that you don't leave anything on the table to chance. You want to make sure you give yourself the best chance possible. So whatever you showed up today, I hope you understand these 3 or 4 key ideas, takeaways. So the first one is know that you need a simple system to pass the aptitude test and get you through to the next stage of the process. Instead of wasting hours wondering and trying bits and pieces, get a plan and smash it straight through to the next component or the next test in the process. Don't waste another minute on it because this is what the other 95% are doing. Number 2, know that you need to understand the profile of the firefighter and how the personality profiling or psych tests work so you can remove the psych test as an issue in you becoming a firefighter. And this one's bigger than I first thought. It's just over the years of sort of helping people through that it has become clear that this is quite an influencer. So number 3, you need to know how to sell yourself in the interview by knowing the questions that you're going to be faced with, learning a simple system so that you can answer the questions in the correct format and not miss any important pieces, and be able to add in the extra special 20% that almost everyone else doesn't even know about or consider. So the only sort of question you've got to be asking yourself right now is how do I do it for myself? And I suppose you've got a choice. You can do it slow, maybe patch together some stuff that we've talked about today. Trial and error, buy some books, have a go at doing it on your own. You know that trial and error is always the slowest way to get the results you want. It's the fastest way to become frustrated like this guy in the picture here. Or you can do it fast. So you can take a nuts and bolts A to Z system that's been proven to work in every service around Australia. Shortcut all the trial and error that I had to go through so that you can get what you want. So the last thing I want to go through with you is the system I use to get my clients the results that we've been talking about and the ones that I've been showing you. But before I tell you about it, I just want to say and make clear that this is not for everybody. There's a couple of types of people that this is not for. So if you're one of the following types, this is definitely not for you. So there's no silver bullet. You still have to roll up your sleeves and do the work. You still got to follow simple plans and frameworks and processes and actually go and do it. So if you think you can just get results without doing the work, this is definitely not for you. Second type, if you're one of these people that's always looking to blame something, someone else, or make excuses, this system is not for you. I've been working on perfecting this approach since 2008 to make it the most easy to follow and effective system for getting results. So all you need to do is a task set out to get the results. You just got to do the work, not make excuses, etc. So that's that one. I built this system to help people that are struggling with seeing success in the following areas. So strategy approaching the whole recruitment process, application, aptitude testing or cognitive testing, personality profiling and emotional intelligence type tests. So your work safeties, talent screeners, just your profiling ones, etc. So that's one area. And the fire service interview, my favourite one. Also the fire service fitness testing, or the PAT as it's well known. So that's what I built the system to do. So the idea of my system is basically to give you the best chance you'll ever have of becoming a professional firefighter here in Australia. To avoid the mistakes and give you the best opportunity the first time around, to give you a simple plan so you know exactly what steps to take for improvement. So you'll know the questions and what to expect on the test, and exactly what to expect at each stage so that you can dominate. In a nutshell, it is a simple plan to get you there fast. So I've broken it down into 6 easy to follow steps or modules. The first one being the strategic game plan, to make sure you're focusing your attention on the right areas at the right time so you don't make any avoidable mistakes and you're ready to go when the time comes. The next one is the application builder. Shows you how to ensure you know the points the recruiters are looking for and stand out in the application phase of recruitment so that you start building a positive application from the very start, from the get-go. The next one, this is a big one, the Aptitude engine. It's designed to get you large aptitude score increases in the shortest possible time frame with the least pain. So that's the bit I like about it. Big increases, short time frame, least pain. Next one is called the personality profiler course. It shows you the firefighter profile. You learn about how to interpret the test as well as see real-time examples of successful applicants. So that's really, really good. So that's the sort of stuff that I was talking about that I went through with Kyle. The next one is the Physical Aptitude Accelerator, or the PAT Accelerator. Increase your physical ability quickly using the minimum effective dose technique so that every little bit of effort increases your ability specifically for the PAT test and specific to you so that you get those gains quickly and you're not wasting your time on stuff that's not going to work. The next one is the interview formula. So you learn the framework and the system to ensure that you're in the top few % on interview day. It's that simple. Can only deliver in the top 5%. That's the idea behind the interview formula. So just to run you through it quickly, first it's the strategy, application, aptitude testing or cognitive testing, personality profiling, physical aptitude, and the interview. And to make this work even better, I'm here to help you through the process, answer questions and make sure you stay on track. Every week I run a coaching session where you bring your questions along and we work through them to keep your momentum up and to ensure your success. I'm like your tour guide through the recruitment process. So I just want to have a quick check-in with you right now, a bit of a reality check. I suppose the thing is if you do nothing, nothing will change. Second thing is if you keep on doing the same thing you've been doing, you're likely going to get the same result. The hard fact is you need a way to ensure that you land in the top 5% to realise your dream. That is a hard and fast fact, unfortunately. So you need a way to get into the top 5%. And I don't want you to waste years of your life, your valuable time and time with your family, money and effort on getting nowhere. I'll review your situation and see where you're at specifically. It'll be like a bit of a friendly interrogation, but after the chat, I'll have a really good idea of where you're at and if or how I can help you. If I'm confident I can help, we'll talk more about how. If not, I'll do my best to point you in the right direction for where you're currently at right now.